Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Now we will explain material about phonological rules. Okay, before that, I will introduce my group name. Next slide. The first, Ajeng Izatul Jannah, Rosmala Listantina, Indriana Putri Marianingrum, and me, Nurul Anissa Yuliana. Okay, the first material will present by me. What are phonological rules? Phonological rules are part of communication through language, whether spoken or written, and knowing what they are and why they exist can help us better understand our words. Understanding phonological rules is considered an important aspect in teaching English or working with people who have speech problems. In order to understand the purpose of phonological rules, we need to understand what a phoneme is. According to the traditional phonological theory, a phoneme is the minimal unit in the sound system of a language. Phonological rules are the rules, whether written or spoken, that control how sound changes during vocal communication. When we state the exact condition under which a phonological process takes place, we are actually giving a phonological rules. Next slide. Type of phonological rules. Phonological rules are two types, informal and formal. In the first, informal. When we write an informal phonological rules, we simply write statement in which we explain in plain English what happens to a certain sound and how it changes to another sound in a certain phonological environment. So when we write an informal phonological rule, we can use the statement the phoneme X changes to Y when it occurs before Z. And the second, formal. When we write a formal phonological rule, we use notation symbol in shorthand that explain what happened to a certain sound and how it changes to another sound in a certain phonological environment. And this statement can be changed to phonological rule notation like X between slashes becomes Y between brackets whenever it is followed by Z. Okay, next material will present by Ajeng. Ajeng, time is yours.
Thank you, moderator. I will explain about how to write a phonological rule. Three kinds of information: which statement change, how they change, and under what conditions. The first is which segment change. What condition which segment change refers to the phoneme that is affected. And the second, how they change, refers to the phonetic change. And under what condition, refers to the phonological environments in which that change takes place. Next slide. How write a phonological rule notation? So when we write a chronological rule statement, be it formal or informal, be it a statement or a notation, we must include those three pieces of the information. Writing a logical rule statement could be very easy for students since we simply write in plain English exactly what happens to a certain sound and how we change to another sound in a certain phonological environment. But when we write a phonological rule notation, we must master and memorize some symbols that we need to use in order to concisely and meticulously describe exactly what happens that sound in that certain environment. For example, the symbol is the phoneme. The next is the phonetic change. And one's last is in the environment. And the next is long dash. This is the place of the affected segment. And the next is become, change to. And the hashtag is word, word boundary. And the next is word final position. If the hashtag is actually following the dash or the environment. The next is word initial position. If the hashtag is before the environment or before the dash, that signifies that we are talking about a word initial at the beginning of word. The next is S, syllable boundary. And the next is syllable final position. And the last, syllable initial position. Next slide. The next is a logical rule notation. The capital V for a vowel, capital C for a consonant, and G for a glide. And the next is the null symbol. This is deleted. And the next is inserted. There is an insertion, we say it is inserted. And the next symbol is more than one environment. And the plus symbol is more pen boundary. And the next parenthesis, this is for possibly. And the next C with the subscript 0. This is for 0 or more consonant. And the last is C superscript 2 and a subscript 0. This is for between 0 and 2 consonant. That's all from me. I give it back to the moderator.
Okay, thank you, Ajeng. So next material will be presented by Rosmala. Rosmala, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, moderator. So now about phonological rules. Number one, expression rule. Expression is a phonological process which is exactly about a secondary modification, a path of air which is exactly a secondary modification that is superimposed on the primary articulation. So this is, for example, pulp, temporal, keep, the turner, and the time. Voiceless stops p, t, k are aspirated when the r syllable initial before stressed vowels. The phoneme p in the word pipe is aspirated to become its allophonic from p, as it occurs initially. Meanwhile, the p is not aspirated in its final position. P, as in the words pipe and keep. Similarly, the po in temporal and the t in uncountable are not aspirated because they are not straight syllables. The p, the word apparent, is aspirated because it occurs in a straight syllables. This aspiration rule also applies in k in the word accountable and t in the word attorney. Thus, the allophonic forms of expression occurring in p, t, k are phonologically conditioned. That is, in stressed syllables. They become phonetically p, t, and k. However, it should be noted the expression is not syllables in broad transcription because it is predictable and allophonic in nature. In narrow transcription, it is sometimes symbolized as a small letter of H as a diacritic symbol right at the aspirated consonant. Okay, so next is rules 2, nasalization rule. The nasalization rule can be reworded as all vowels and diphthongs are nasalized before a nasal. Compare the following list of words. List 1, camp, sound, him. List 2, cat, log, hit. The diphthong and vowels in the list 1, A, O, I, are nasalized because of the regressive assimilation or influenced by the next nasal, and The diphthong for example, is nasalized due to the influence of the nasal that follows. Similarly, the vowels O and I are nasalized due to the influence of the nasal and respectively. Meanwhile, the diphthong and vowels in the list 2, L, O, and I are normally pronounced or not nasalized because they are not followed by any nasal. Similar to aspiration, nasalization is also predictable in terms of phonological position and thus phonetic in nature. In other words, the words in list 1 may or may not be nasalized without changing the meaning of each word. Again, the level of origin English will be attacked to those who fail to nasalize vowels and diphthongs in such phonological conditions. Okay, maybe that's all from me. Next material will be presented by Indriana. Indriana, time is yours.
Okay, for small Constantina, thank you. And I will continue the material about phonological rules. And the third rules is vowels lengthening. The rule for vowels lengthening as above can be reworded as all vowels or diphthong are pronounced longer when followed by a voiced consonant. Okay, to know more about this, let's compare the following list of words. Okay, in here, any two lists. And from compare, for one compare is bait and beat. And the second is hit and hit. And then bat and bat. And the last is bite and bite. All right. From that list, the vowels and diphthongs in the list 1, E, A, and I are pronounced longer because of the regressive assimilation or influenced by the next consonant. The next consonant from that vowels is D or the, which is voice. Then the vowels and diphthong in the list 2 is E, A, and I, as they are followed by the, which is a voiceless consonant. Thus, vowel or diphthong is by vowels lengthening rules pronounced longer than when followed by a voiced sound than when followed by a voiceless sound. All right, likewise, linguistic phenomena is phonetic in nature, meaning that if one fails to lengthening the vowels or diphthong, the meaning of the intended word does not change. This is because the length is not measured in terms of absolutely measurement, such as how many seconds longer, rather it is only relatively felt. Okay, the next is fourth rules. Okay, this is assimilation rules. Over times or simply within a word, which may have undergone morphological process, the result of assimilation is fixed with its spelling form. Consider the following sets of example. Okay, to know more about this, let's look at the example. Impossible versus impossible. And then irregular versus irregular. And then illogical versus illogical. Okay, from that example, the phonological process is very clear. The p or p in possible influences the n to become of which the assimilation occurs in terms of manner or of articulation from alveolar to bilabial, because p itself is a bilabial, and while the r in regular influence the the n to become r, of which the assimilation occurs in terms of manner of articulation from alveolar to rolled fricative, because r itself is a rolled fricative. Furthermore, the l in logical influences the n become to l, of which the assimilation occurs in terms of manner of articulation or from alveolar to rolled lateral, because l itself is a rolled lateral. Okay, maybe that's all from our presentations today. And thank you for your attention. We are want to close these presentations. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.